settings. This is Bobby Wunsch from Pacific Health Consulting Group, and it's great to have all of you here. We're going to quickly review the process for using the webinar, and then we'll get started on the agenda. So just remember, everyone that is signed on, that this meeting is being recorded, and the recording and all the materials are posted on the CDA website, and this is the address if you're not on the website. If you have any comments or questions throughout the meeting, please type them into the questions box on your screen. And we'll stop periodically throughout the meeting to take your comments and questions. And then periodically we'll open the lines to see if anyone has any comments. Today's meeting is the release of the draft plan for CBAS, for the home and community-based settings section of the statewide transition plan. And the draft plan was posted several hours ago. We don't expect that very many people will have had a chance to review the plan in detail. The real purpose of today's meeting is to orient you to the draft plan, not to take your comment on specific sections of the plan. We really want you to understand how the plan's been put together, what the different sections of the plan are, and then we hope that you will take time over the next 30 days to provide very detailed feedback to the different sections of the plan. And we'll discuss how the feedback will work a little bit later in the meeting. So as you can see from the agenda, we're just going to review what we've done in our past 4 meetings, show you where the input is that stakeholders have provided throughout the sessions, get an update on the California statewide transition plan, and then we're going to look at the plan, the draft plan, the CBAS section of the draft plan, and really give you an orientation to it. Then we'll review the different ways you can provide feedback and the time frame for that feedback. And then we'll just remind everybody about the CBAS work groups on the IPC revision and on quality that we've been talking about at previous meetings. If anyone has any public comment, we'll take those. And then we'll close with just a reminder that our next meeting will be on July 8th. And at that meeting, we will share the feedback received from stakeholders and the revisions that will be made to the draft plan based on that feedback. So make sure to mark your calendars, July 8th from 2 to 5 for the next meeting of this stakeholder process. So without further ado, we're going to hear, I'm just going to move us through these slides. Again, just a reminder about what the purpose of this stakeholder group is, to develop a transition plan for bringing CBAS centers into compliance with the requirements of the Home and Community-Based Settings Rule. And here's the settings rule that we're focused on, and the 4 major components related to the needs of the individual clients. Again, just as an orientation to what the purpose of this work group is. We've talked about that. And as you remember, this is our 4th meeting, and this ticks off or starts the public comment period, which ends on June 22nd for the draft CBAS transition plan. Okay, so I'm just going to ask Denise Peach from the California Division of Aging to just give us a review of what happened at our last meeting and where you can find all those materials.
Quick review. Thank you, Bobby.
Sure.
So what we have on the website, as we have all along for these meetings, is we've posted the meeting summary from the previous meeting. So, and actually we didn't get the link up there on that, but it's all available through the CDA website on the oh yeah, there we go. It's the that's the document itself. So the link on the website, the main stakeholder page. You can grab the meetings, each of the individual dates, and go to any of the documents that were available during those meetings or after. Here's the summary that's out there now. The vast majority of what we captured from last meeting is actually available on the key documents page, where we had a work tool that we completed last time. Some of you will remember, I think we had a really robust conversation about each of the sections of the draft plan and what we wanted to be thinking about as we went into creating the narrative and some of the milestones for that plan. So we had that conversation last time, and that's posted on the key documents portion there under the last. There we go. We have the stakeholder log, and we have the key documents that are available with that work tool that we completed last time. So some of you might remember, if you participated, that we had questions that were in red, and as you were speaking, we were throwing the bullets up there, and those were extremely helpful as we got into drafting the plan. So under work tools there, that outline for the draft transition plan, that's what we completed at the April 23rd meeting. And then if we can back up and we can show you where the stakeholder log is, that would be, where's the stakeholder log there, so we can get all of the stakeholder input to date. Where is our stakeholder log? It's down, there we go, stakeholder input log. So this has been the running tally of everything that you've been talking to us about during the meetings, between the meetings. We've captured everything, and again, available for your review. It might be helpful as we go into this next public comment period, where we're talking about the document and are we actually capturing what all of the stakeholders have been telling us throughout this process. So that's available there. It's all compiled from all the meetings and in between for all of your feedback. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that's out there for your review as we go into this next public comment period. And that's pretty much the summary from last meeting. I don't think we posted any other new documents besides the plan itself, so we'll show you that in just a minute. So that was the last meeting.
Great. Thanks, Denise. It's very important to, as you review the draft plan, to look at the feedback that the stakeholders have given in the stakeholder log, just to double check to make sure that the issues that have been identified are really addressed in the plan. So now we're just going to take a couple of minutes to hear from Jalal Haddad from DHCS on the status of the California statewide transition plan, of which the CBAS plan is a component. So let's see if we have Jalal on the phone.
Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Hi, Jalal. We're just going to turn up the sound. Let's say hi again.
Hello.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Last we spoke, I was mentioning that we were planning to discuss the denial letter CMS sent to DHCS on our statewide transition plan, and we finally were able to get on the line with CMS for a short call, and they clarified a few things for us. One of the concerns we had, or the lack of clarity we saw in the letter, was one particular sentence that says, the completed transition plan must include a date when the state will submit an amendment of the STP that details the state's assessment findings and detailed remediation actions based on the assessment of findings. So that made our head spin, and we clarified with them what they're discussing when they talk about assessments is actual on-site assessments. So CMS expected that we would have done some initial assessments on site, which we haven't. So we were looking at strategies of how to do that. Another thing they wanted to see in the statewide transition plan is a framework for remediation, strategies for when we find issues, out of compliance issues for our on-site assessments. So all this is, we'll be working through that and providing information to the public as soon as we can about how we'll go about it. They also clarified that the systematic assessment of current laws and regulations, that also needs to be included in the statewide transition plan. So that would be, jumping down to the last bullet, or arrow rather, we have a really dedicated work group working on those assessments, and they are nearly done. They expect it to be done by the 15th of this month, but they're just finalizing and double-checking, fact-checking all of their work. So that should be coming out very soon. So that's really good news. Moving on. Moving on to the provider self-assessment and on-site assessment tools, we have included in our public notice, same time as the CBAS public notice. It'll be published the 22nd, and we have links to the residential and non-residential provider and on-site assessment tools. And we're also working on a format and a template for stakeholder comments, so that when we get these comments back, we're expecting to receive lots of comments on these tools. That will have a way, efficient way of reviewing and incorporating comments. So that will also be up on the website, and the links are in the public notice for that. The beneficiary self-survey tool, we have, as I mentioned last call, we have reached out to a few of our advocates, and we've heard back and have commitments from the National Health Law Program, Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund, Justice and Aging, and Disability Rights California. And they indicated that they want to see the assessment tools, provider and on-site assessment tools, before they begin working on the beneficiary tool, so to use the framework. And since those will be hitting the web on the 22nd, we're expecting from then on that we'll begin development of that beneficiary-specific tool. But I can't say exactly when that'll be complete. That pretty much covers where we're at to date. And I'm happy to answer any questions if I can.
Thanks, Jalal. Let's see if any of our participants, we have about 60 people participating in the webinar today. Let's see if anyone has any questions or feedback for you on your update. So if you're on the webinar, you can either type in your comment or question for Jalal, or you can raise your electronic hand, and we'll call on you for your comment or question. And we'll start with Denise Peach.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, while we're waiting to see if anybody has any questions out there in the webinar land, if Jalal, if you know anything new about the timeline and how it might intersect with the CBAS timeline at this point, that'd be great if you could share that.
I do not.
Okay. I thought maybe it's for the plan submission, because I know that we had a different deadline for the statewide plan for getting back to CMS with the responses, and that kind of didn't coincide very well with the submission of the CBAS portion.
Right. CMS is aware, and that's news to come.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so far we don't have any comments, Jalal, or any questions for you, so I think we'll say thank you for your update. We always appreciate hearing this. I think it's helpful to put everything in context.
Great, and I'll be on the line for a while if anybody has questions that come up.
Okay, that's great, Jalal. So now we're going to move on to looking at the draft plan that's been posted earlier today. And so I think the first thing we want to do is, why don't we go back to the link for the draft plan? Do we have that here? And let's that's the California plan. Do we have the, yeah, let's open the CBAS plan so we can show everyone where we are with that. Okay.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. I wonder if we could go back to the web page so we can show everybody where they should be looking for the plan.
So the main HCB settings page there. Yeah. Nope.
So everyone just hold on. We want to show you where on the website you'll find the, here we go, where you'll find the draft plan so you can open it and walk through it along with us. So if you go to this link and then you open it up, it will be opening successfully.
There we go.
But here you have the key
Right there,
spot,
the
and there's the draft
Draft.
plan right there at the
And
fourth
time
bullet.
process.
There we go. Okay, so this is where you should be looking now if you're with us. You're going to click on that link to the plan as we get ready to go through the plan. So let me just remind everybody again that the draft plan was just posted a couple of hours ago, and we anticipate that most of you have not had a chance to review it in depth. Hopefully some of you have had a chance to look at it. So the purpose today, again, is to walk through the document and orient everybody to what's here, the kinds of things we're hoping you'll give feedback on, and to really get you ready to provide detailed comment over the course of the next 30 days. We don't expect detailed comment today, and we're really just wanting to make sure you have a sense of the document so that you can set aside time in your schedule to review this. And then after we go through the plan and orient you, we will walk through the different ways you can make public comment. There are several different opportunities for that. So Denise is going to walk us through the plan. One of the things I want to remind everybody of as we go through this, and you might want to make some note of this yourself, this information went out in an email to everyone earlier today. We're really looking for information and feedback from you. Again, not today, but as you start reviewing the document on the content of each section, we want to get feedback in terms of have the right issues been addressed? Is there anything missing that should be there? Are the commitments that have been addressed in the milestone section too many commitments, just about right? Are we missing anything in terms of the commitments? This is a big piece of the work. Are the commitments that the state is making to CMS and to all the stakeholders of work that will be done over the course of the next few years? And then are the timelines realistic? And if they're not realistic, please do comment on how they should be adjusted. Often our timelines are not realistic, and it really does help to have a good check-in from stakeholders on that. So again, the three areas as we go through the plan to be thinking about: content, commitments and milestones, and then the timelines. Okay, so is everybody ready? We're going to go back on the screen to the plan itself, and Denise is going to walk us through, again, the major sections and what's in them. We're not going to read this. The plan itself currently is about 20 pages long, but there are many attachments. So the package right now is about 80 pages. The attachments are very important, so you'll need to pay attention to those as well. Okay, Denise, ready to take us away?
All right, I'll take you away. I'll start by saying thank you to everybody for all the feedback we had so far. I think there was a moment last week when we were feeling like it was actually ready to forward up the chain for some review, and I think one thought that occurred to us was, oh, this is a draft, and thankfully it is a draft. This is a good process that we get. We get another crack at it. I think we felt pretty good about where we are with it, but happy that it's also a draft and we get more feedback from you all. But that the feedback so far really did pave the way for how we actually thought about this and put it together and the detail in it. So thank you to everybody. So first, about high-level overview, again, I underscore what Bobby said about the plan. It looks pretty intimidating if you printed it out. I think it's actually 79 pages at this point, and it's going to be a lot longer because we left some appendix materials off, including what CMS really wants us to demonstrate to them in the way of the public comment process, the public process that we've been through to get stakeholder input. So all of that is not in here, and when it is, I can guarantee it will be well over 100 pages long. So, but the plan itself is only 20 pages at this point, and I think that it pretty concisely describes why we're doing this, as in the background, what did CMS direct us to do in our 1115 waiver. So that's at the top of the document, the background. And then through the introduction section, if we can scroll down just a little bit, we use, again, a lot of input from the stakeholders in how do we think about this program. So we start at the very beginning with, what this program is, obviously long history and roots in the ADHC program. So we started with that description and went into it now being a 1115 benefit, a managed care benefit. So we went through some of that history, and then if we keep scrolling down, again, this is all program background that most of us are familiar with. We put in a piece, keep going to the top of page 3, where we have some references to some center and participant facts. This is sort of point in time, and of course we'll adjust this before we go forward in September. But this is where we are right now with 243 centers, approximately 32,000 participants. We have centers that range in size from 20 to 310. So we threw in a few statistics here, and then what we wanted to do is let everybody know that there are more statistics available about the program on our dashboard on the website and on an appendix in the back, Appendix 1. And this is a one-page flyer that I've shared most recently at the CADS membership meeting and conference, and that has some detail on it that sort of compiles things that are off of the dashboard. So we included that to give a snapshot to our CMS partners and everyone else who's looking at the plan of what the program looks like today. So that's all the introduction with some summary information here that I think hints at some of the issues that we think that may be out there that we're going to be addressing through on-site reviews and assessments and education, et cetera. So this kind of goes into a narrative about CVAS being, a fully community-based setting, and that they're part of local communities. And again, a lot of this language that the stakeholders have given us in shaping this. These individuals who attend are giving their informed choice to participate. They have various other options. That managed care plans have responsibility for providing those beneficiaries with their options and making sure they're informed. The CVAS centers have responsibilities there. The care that individuals who are in CVAS get, and many of them, over 65%, also get in-home support services, so they have choice and consumer direction in that model as well for their care. So we kind of go through some of these backgrounds, this background that we think is important to share about the program. That it's designed to promote autonomy and independence and all of those good things. Again, we had all of these conversations earlier in the stakeholder process, and we really appreciate everybody's input here. If we keep scrolling down, then we have at the end of that section just shared some of your thoughts from actually the last couple of meetings, and just said basically, let's put it in the stakeholders' words. This is what you guys are saying about what this program looks like. So that's where we end the sort of background and introduction section. Then we go into, at the middle of page 5, we go into the first section of education and outreach, and this is where we describe what it is we've been through in the way of meetings since February, talking to all of you, what we've been engaged in considering the home and community-based rules that the feds have put out, and how does CVAS fit into that. So we have a lot of, again, sort of background on what we've been doing for the last few months, talk about how we went through the first meeting, going through those exploratory questions and answering those as a group. If you scroll down a little bit onto page 6, there's the calendar that you've all been seeing, things we've been engaged in and will be engaged in. And then scroll down a little bit further, we've got the website there. We talk about what's up on our website. Again, education and outreach has been a big piece of what we've been doing, putting documents out there in easily accessible formats, we hope, for people to access, letting people also know that they can call us and obtain these documents if they want to take a look at them. So the website has been something that we have felt like was a key way that we could reach out to everybody and let them know about these rules. If we go down a little bit onto page 7 of the plan, We talked about distribution of meeting announcements and public comment notices. Most recently, we went out last week with a notice to go into the California Regulatory Registry for a written announcement about this plan coming out and the opportunities for public comment. We've sent out materials again to our CVAS provider community and asked them for their assistance posting the documents, sharing them with their participants and families so we could get the word out about this public comment period, and we've distributed that through all of our other advocacy groups as well. So this is just a summary of some of the things that we've been doing in our outreach, and then, like I said, the appendix there, refer to Appendix 2 to view these documents. We'll have all the stuff attached so we can demonstrate our good faith effort to get out there and ask everybody for their participation in this process. And this is a table right here that summarizes, again, what's on the website, what we've been doing in the way of our CVAS electronic newsletter, things that we've been doing with our all center letters, our public comment notices, etc. So that's in the plan to demonstrate what we've been doing. If we get down to page 9, it talks about training. And what we've been doing in the way of training opportunities and what we think is coming in the way of training opportunities. Discussions during our stakeholder process have indicated, for those of you who've been participating, you know that there are some areas that we think we can shore things up. Providers' understandings of what some of the rules are, shore up an understanding in the beneficiary community as well. So what we have done here is talked about some of the things that we do all the time with our partners over at the California Association for Adult Day Services. We piggyback onto their conferences that they have a couple times a year and work with them to put those conferences together, the workshops and whatnot that will be featured. So we're letting everybody know that we're committed to continuing to do that, to partner with the managed care plans and the providers to put together training opportunities to be presented in person at the conferences, and then also that we will develop website models for modules for home community-based settings as we identify need for, again, promoting further what the rules look like for the participants and caregivers and the providers. So that's a commitment, and I'll show you in a moment that we have in each of these sections there's a little sort of commitment table, and that's coming up. So here's the narrative about it. We're going to do that, as well as the person-centered planning that's already been underway, and with our staff, with the Provider Association and Managed Care, and that we're going to continue to work on that. So here's our first commitment table, I'd call it, on page 10 under the Outreach and Education section. We have milestones identified, and that's the participation on the planning committees with CADS, to work in collaboration with providers and managed care plans for presentations and training workshops. We're saying, again, we do this all the time, but we're going to start it, we usually start in the summer, and participate on planning committee efforts, and again, to start thinking about workshops and opportunities for training and promoting this HCB settings rule. And then target end date, we're saying as this whole plan lasts until March of 2019, we're saying through that November conference we'll be continuing to do this, so we're making that commitment there under milestone 1A. 1B that we're going to present at the conferences and work with whoever it is that they'll let us go on the stage with, or not. We'll help get on the stage. 1C there to work with stakeholders to identify other training needs and develop and deliver training via webinars and to post on our website. So get a target start date in July, ending in March of 2018. And we'll get those things up on our web so everybody can access them. And then to train our own staff here in-house at CDA on how they're going to be doing their oversight and monitoring, how they're going to be working with new tools and determining center compliance with these rules. So, so we have that as well on our education and outreach milestones. If you scroll down, we get into section 2 on page 12. Wait a minute, no, page, sorry, lost my page.
Section 2
on
page
10. And am I going fast enough, too fast, whatever?
No, I was just going to stop for let's
Sure.
just stop for 1 second and just remind everybody that this first milestone chart is a place where, as you review the document, you might give some thought to, are there other education and outreach and training milestones that you might suggest? Are there other venues for training, other organizations that could benefit from the training? This is where you would suggest additional items. This would be a great place for that. So again, we don't need to solicit that today. We want you to think about this, and these milestone charts, which you'll see throughout each section, will be an important place for your feedback. So let's just see, do we have any comments or questions yet? Okay, so far everybody's with us, I hope. So now we're at the bottom of page 10. I wanted to give Denise a little break there. And we're going to start with the review of section 2.
All right, so section 2 is the assessment of statutes, regulations, waiver policies, and other requirements. And this is what CMS has directed the states to do to ensure that the programs in question, this one for CBAS, that we have what our state rules are for the program are in alignment with what's happening with the federal rules. So what we've done in this section is basically to, again, to go back and to articulate that we sort of started this review during our February meeting where we started those CMS exploratory questions. CMS asked us to answer those questions. We did that as a group, and at that time we started looking for what were the program rules that reflected some of this home and community-based settings requirements, and how were we doing with the program structure. So we talk about that here. We link to it in the document to show that there's a, we don't need to go out there, but just that there's a document that's been completed that we all worked on together in the early days of these discussions. Additionally, we went back and we filled in more regulations and statutes that were missing into that document, and we have done a deeper review of the rules most recently, and that's one of the appendixes here. It's Appendix 3, and I'll show you that in a moment. But basically, what we're saying is that we do not believe that we have any dramatic gaps in our program rules or conflicts that put us in opposition to the HCB settings rules after these preliminary reviews, but that we will engage stakeholders in further discussing this. So we're putting these out, our assessment, in this draft review. So it's time for some feedback on that, and we can do more extensive work in the coming months to ensure that what we have done in our review, that the stakeholders are in agreement with, that we identify if there are any needs to, if there's any need to strengthen some of the requirements, to reinforce them through guidance letters, etc. And then also we put this note in here as a footnote that if stakeholders determine during their review that the statutory changes, there are statutory changes needed to enhance the HCB settings requirements, then at that time DHCS and CDA would propose such changes to address the legislative change needs before March of 2019. So, so if we could just quickly, and you know what? No, let's wait on this because it's a really big attachment at the end. So there's a really big appendix that shows that review, and I want to show it to you. But let's just keep going sequentially through the chapters here. So the milestone chart on the top of page 12 for this section, section 2, we show 4 milestones and timelines here for this section. So the first one being that we'll work with stakeholders to identify any CBAS program requirements that may need strengthening to enhance compliance with the settings regulations. And we have added there to include possible standardization of any set of protocols and forms. So that's a policy kind of issue that if we were to say there's going to be some new standard required form or some standard process that needs to be followed through a policy statement, a policy letter, then that would be included in this. So working with all of you beginning in July 2015 and stretching out through March. So that doesn't mean that people can't comment during the public comment period, but that we will engage specifically in talking about laws and regulations and this assessment piece. Under 2B, we have to develop Medi-Cal manual revisions, anything that we determine needs to be revised or added to strengthen, again, reinforce the requirements. We have that on the commitment schedule, January 2015 to June 2016. developing any standardized protocols and forms. We had talked about previously in this setting, I think a couple meetings ago, we talked about possible need to have a standardized participation agreement that would reflect some of the requirements, standardized care planning tools to support the regulations. So again, I think we tried to write this in terms of develop any that are identified as being needed. And then we have, with a footnote there, the initiate any statutory or regulatory requirements that may be regulation changes that may be needed if that's what's determined. And I think that the footnote that went with that dropped off the page. So there's our first draft revision right there. I'm just seeing it now. Okay, so do we want to stop after that section?
Yeah, let's just, thank you, Denise. Let's just see if there's any comments, any feedback so far. And if anybody has any feedback on the pace, if we're going too fast for you or too slow, please let us know. And if you can't hear Denise, let us know.
All right, so section 3 then, in the middle of page 12, the compliance determination process for HCB settings. Again, CMS has asked us to describe what it is that we have planned for determining whether our CVAS centers, the 243 centers that we have, whether they are in compliance with the rules. So now we're coming out of chapter 2 where we're talking about what the program rules are to talking about how they're being followed and how well the implementation of those program rules square with the HCB settings requirements. So what we are saying in this chapter is that we are going to be, well, first I'd like to just call attention to in the introduction there where we're saying that clearly the CVAS centers are community-based settings, have to conform to the HCB settings rule. As a managed care benefit, some of the requirements specified under the HCB settings regulations, such as person-centered planning, are met at the managed care level and/or are shared responsibility between managed care plans and CVAS centers. So just we're highlighting throughout here, again, reminding our CMS partners and everyone that this is a managed care benefit. So the plans have a role in meeting these requirements as well. So then we talk about the initial and ongoing compliance determination process next, and we described that we are going to verify compliance of all the centers. So we're going on site for all of our centers, and that actually happens to just be what we do all the time to begin with. So so that what we're going to be doing through March of 2019 is determining the initial levels of compliance that the centers have. And then continuing our monitoring on an ongoing basis, and that CDA is the lead agency for doing that CVAS provider oversight. So as part of that, what we describing here is the process that providers are very familiar with, but by law, by state law, we have a recertification, a renewal of certification every 2 years for all providers, which means that we get out to see half of our providers every year. So they get a visit from us on site, and they do an application process. So what we're saying is that we believe that we need to fold into that existing process, through our existing mechanisms, the provider self-assessment, which would be included as part of the renewal process, and then the provider self-assessment would be available for our review, our CDA review, prior to our review on site. So we have a desk review process that takes place in-house here, and so we will be reviewing that provider self-assessment tool at that time, and then validation processes that would be incorporated on site into our on-site survey review tool that would, again, that we currently use. We expand that out so that we could do validation of the provider self-assessment. And I see we got another typo there too. Good. Draft plan. And in the middle of page 13, where we're talking about participant and provider assessment tools. Again, CMS has been very interested in what we're doing to bring the providers into to do more education with them about what the rules are, and that's part of the assessment process. Is that the providers will be making their own assessment of how they're doing with meeting the rules, and that the participants at the CVAS centers get an opportunity to talk about how they're seeing their needs being met and how those align with HCB rules with regards to person-centered planning, and the affording of them of their rights and choices, and freedom of movement through the center, their privacy, dignity, respect, all of those things that are built into the rule that we had in the slides as we got started. So we anticipate that there'll be a participant assessment, settings assessment tool that will be part of this process too. We also wanted to make CMS aware that here and others that provider deficiencies under our current state law, the way that our monitoring processes work is that we have a formal report writing statements of deficiencies that get issued when we go on site, and the providers have an opportunity to correct. That's the objective, is that we want to have findings of noncompliance to be corrected during that process. So we describe that there. And then we say that, again, that we anticipate that all of our CVAS centers will either be in full compliance with the HCB settings regulations, or they can be brought into full compliance before the deadline that CMS has given us of March 17, 2019, and that there won't be any need to relocate any participants. And so we have captured what we believe are all the milestones to get us through this part of the effort here in Table 3. So several more milestones here. Again, development of the provider self-assessment tool, and as Jalal briefed us, the statewide transition planning efforts, they've already designed what they are hoping is going to be the beginning of a core set of questions, a core tool, and then from there, what we anticipate doing based on the stakeholders' feedback is that we would be piloting that provider self-assessment for CVAS and taking a quick look at how well providers understand it and whether we need to be modifying and retooling that tool. And we have that under milestone 3C. And then we anticipate that we would be developing the participant setting self-assessment, the participant setting assessment tool with stakeholder input. And again, we're going to coincide as much as we can with the state plan transition efforts, and if we need to tailor it specifically for CVAS in any way on top of those core tools, then we'll do that, those core questions. So that's under 3D. 3E is we need to be modifying our CDA certification renewal processes and tool with stakeholder input, so we anticipate that happening beginning in September through December of 2015. And then under 3F, that we would be beginning the process of incorporating this into our reviews. So for 2 years, as we go through our 2-year cycle and seeing all of our centers, that we would begin to do our initial phase, working with the provider self-assessment, working with the participant setting assessment, and then our own validation processes on site of those tools. And then under 3H, that we would have any remediation plans. Again, that's the standard plan of corrective action plan process that we have in CVAS, and that we would be running that based on all of those surveys, so that we can say that at 3I, that full compliance would be achieved by March of 2019, because any problems that would be identified would have been remediated by that point. So that's section 3. Do we want to pause again? I don't know, yes. So far nobody has any questions, or they're storing up all of their comments for later.
Well, everyone hasn't had a chance to really read this in detail.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
Again, we're just trying to give you a guide through what's here so that you can allocate time in your schedule to really review this in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
Particularly these milestone charts are very important for you to give some thought to.
And I would just say that I invite people to when you're giving us feedback, particularly about the milestones, that you could, if you have great ideas about how we can do the stakeholder part of it. I mean, certainly not all of this is formal efforts like we've been undertaking here. That would break the bank. We couldn't possibly get it all done. But thinking about mechanisms for doing that, where we develop documents, we post it, we let people know, we give them time to give us feedback, that we have ways of engaging stakeholders that isn't going to burn everybody out as well. So, and then also to just remember that we do have till March of 2019, so not everything has to be stacked at the beginning. Some things have to be stacked at the beginning because we have to start the assessment process, and there's, we have to build it enough time. But some things can continue on and beyond.
Okay, let's. Any comments from anyone? Thanks, Lilith. Okay, let's go on to section 4. This is one of the most important sections to certainly all of the providers.
Yeah.
Person-centered care plan.
It is, and as some of you will remember, page 15, that CMS had asked us not to put a ton of detail into this plan about the person-centered planning after they directed us to make sure that we undertook this in a serious way. So we tried to keep it lean here and to basically say that yes, you told us to do this, and we did it. We had a whole meeting where we talked about this in particular, and we have talked about it throughout. That we believe that we've got some pretty good things underway with regards to person-centered planning that's already built into the model, and that's being undertaken by the providers, especially CAD's taking a real leadership role in getting person-centered care front and center in all of their training efforts. We've provided training to our own staff on this, so we're wanting CMS to know that we've got this thing well in hand. So if we skip up to page 16, again, this is a pretty short section, but we do have a milestones table here where we are reinforcing this with that we're going to be redesigning our individual plan of care to enhance any person-centered planning that we need to do there, and that we're going to be getting that started. And we pushed that date from June to July. We felt like we were a little bit too busy there in June, but we'll be getting it started very, very soon. So we wanted them to know this. We were going to be doing this anyways, but we think that we can enhance the person-centered planning piece in the IPC when we get that started. And then our commitment for be there to develop and provide training on implementation of the revised IPC. So that's definitely got to be part of this effort when we create new forms and new protocols. So that's a pretty lean section there. On the appeals section, section 5, again, we're making sure that everyone's aware that we have processes in place for the participants and for the providers with regards to filing of appeals and grievances that we think offer some pretty strong protections and support the compliance with HCB settings. We overview what the participant appeal and grievance rights are, again, emphasizing that as managed care beneficiaries, they have the opportunity to file grievances with their managed care plans at any time that they experience dissatisfaction with services or the quality of care provided. And that there are also grievance procedures at the center level and rights to file appeals and grievances as well with the plan and fair hearings. And then the provider appeal processes basically talk again about the formal structures we have in place with regards to statements of deficiencies and corrective action processes that are in place, and emphasizing that when we do have substantial non-compliance with program rules and CVAS, that we have very formal legal processes that we undergo where we notify providers of termination or non-renewal, and the provider has the rights to full evidentiary hearing in front of the state administrative law judge to appeal their cases. So that said, the vast majority of all disputes, we resolve them during the corrective action phase. So we don't have that much that goes to formal due process structures. So, but we want everybody to know that in case they're not aware. Section 6. Compliance and monitoring. So to some degree, this reiterates some things that are stated in Section 3, where we talk about the initial compliance effort. This is the train that's running all the time around here. When we're not doing things like stakeholder processes, actually when we are doing things like stakeholder processes, we're still running all around the state and doing monitoring of centers and ensuring that the standards for participation in the program are being met. So we describe that again. What does that look like? That we have, that providers have to every 2 years have to make an application process. They have to undergo an on-site survey, et cetera. So we reiterate that, and then we talk about all of those steps. And what we want to emphasize here is that we have remediation processes built into that through corrective actions. And that what we know we need to do now is to, if we go to page 18, is that with the input of stakeholders again, that we need to add certain elements to our certification process for ensuring compliance with HCB settings regulations. So that, again, that includes that provider self-assessment tool and a process for reviewing that during our in-house, validating it on-site when we go to do our on-site surveys. We do that through the usual methods of doing interviews with participants, which we already do, but we'll enhance those to include these new requirements: our participant interviews, our staff interviews, observations of the program, review of very specific health and administrative records to see whether what we're validate what we're looking at. And then we'll have to build review and follow-up processes for the participant settings assessment that we anticipate that we'll be obtaining during and after the on-site survey. So figuring out how we'll fold those things in is what we'll need to do with the help of stakeholders. And then again, the reiteration of that when we find centers out of compliance, how it is that we work through that. And then assurance that we believe that we'll have everybody in compliance.
So,
and that's, yeah.
So thanks, Denise. Let's just stop for a minute.
Yeah.
Those are the 6 sections, as well as the introduction. Again, just a reminder to everyone, we'll just keep saying this over and over again, that there's really 3 areas we'd like your feedback on: the content, the milestones, and the timelines. And in just a minute, we'll talk about the different ways you can provide input and how you can get that input to CDA and DHCS. And we'll need your input by June 22nd. So you have a full month to set aside some time to really review this document in detail. So let's just see if we have any comments so far from any members on the webinar. So everyone seems to be sticking with us. Now let's look at page 19, which is the timeline. This is the broad timeline for the transition. And as you can see, in 2015 are the stakeholder meetings that we've been engaged in. The last one of this series will be July 8th, where the feedback that we've gathered from all the stakeholders will be discussed in context of how the draft plan will change. Stakeholder engagement will continue throughout the entire time period. So don't think about how old you'll be when this process is over in 2019. But that's an important thing to remember, is this is a long process. The person-centered work groups revising the IPC will start right away and will be about a 1.5 year process. Education and outreach will continue for the better part of this period. The assessment of statutes and then compliance and the appeals process go on throughout the whole process. If you look at page 20, which is the last page of the official part of the draft plan, and then we'll look at the appendices. This is a listing of all the transition milestones, including all the stakeholder meetings that we've had and will have as part of this process, and then all the milestones that come off of each of the individual sections that have a milestone chart. So this is really a way to see the whole process all at once. So again, when you review the draft plan, these milestones are really important to give some thought to. Are there any missing? Should any be taken out? And are the timelines realistic? Okay, so now we're going to walk through, again, at the same level of detail, what the appendices are so far. There are additional appendices that are not included that will be included in the final plan. But these are the appendices that some of which we'll look for your feedback on in terms of their ability to describe in lots more detail issues that are referenced in the plan. Ready, Denise?
Sure.
So we're now on appendices 1, which is a really easy one.
It is a really easy one. It's a one-pager, and that's the composite of quick facts about the CBAS centers and participants statewide. Again, just a snapshot of the program. We'll give this an updated look before we submit to CMS. So this is data that we have as of today. And so that's pretty much all there is to say about that. We're actually, I'll put in a plug right now because we're still trying to clean up our data for our participant characteristics. That we have a new report that is always challenging when we get new things, something to keep in in mind as we go through making new commitments here. But we're still challenged with trying to get all of our providers to report their participant characteristics data, report it correctly. But as soon as we do, we are so excited about sharing that data. So we don't have current participant characteristics data out there. So if you're one of those providers who is challenged, get a hold of us. There's all kinds of help. Operators are standing by to help you with your participant characteristics report. Okay, so we'll update that before we submit. Appendix 2 is a placeholder. And that is what I referred to up top about all of the notices that we put out. I think it occurred to somebody, some brilliant member on our team, that we shouldn't include those all in the draft plan. There's probably another 50 pages worth of paper that nobody needs to see at this point, but rest assured, we reference them in section of the plan. We have a table here on page 8 of the plan. We reference all of these documents and communiques that we've had, and then we are going to attach them all when we send this off to CMS. So there's a lot of supporting documentation that we have. And then when we get into Appendix 3, I want to share that there's, first of all, there's two things that, two components of the analysis of the laws, regulations, waivers, policies, other requirements, et cetera, that we put in here. This first one, and again, maybe others don't think these are necessary. This is actually mostly my doing, and I might overkill. I'm not sure, but what CMS wants us to talk about, to make sure that we have looked at our rules in the state and made a comparison to what the HCB settings requirements are, and make a determination of whether we're in alignment. And so the first thing that we did to address this, besides all the work, the preliminary work we did with all of you in the meetings, is that we took a look at our laws and regulations, and we went through and just picked up everything that we thought really had some kind of alignment with the HCB settings rules. So that included things like what you see right there on page 1. We have the program intent. This is the legislative intent language when this program was created in 1978. This is what people were thinking about this program and saying about it, and it's some really some really good poetic language here that the legislature was putting together at the time, talking about this program. So this is what this was built. The program was built on. So so we just pretty much grabbed everything that was out there in our program rules that looked like HCB settings requirements. So this first part of the assessment is sort of the inventory. It's the big library of everything that has something to do, we think, that touches the HCB settings requirements. Long before the HCB settings requirements were written, there was ADHC law. So we just pulled all those in and then highlighted some wording that we think is significant. Again, just a little snapshot here. The general definition, that's in Title 22 in the Medi-Cal regulations. The program, it promotes social, emotional, physical well-being of impaired individuals living in the community, alone or with others, in order to maintain them and restore them to their optimal functional potential and to help them remain at or return to their homes. It's great language, I think, that folks need to see. So when we got to the next section, if you keep scrolling down, and this is actually on this appendix, it's actually on, it starts again with page 1 and it goes to a landscape view. So this is the whole inventory. And I would also just admit right up front, there are some things that I think are missing here. We don't have things from the Medi-Cal Provider Manual where there is policy. Again, some of it just becomes really, really repetitive. Keep scrolling down. You'll see it switches to landscape. So there are some things that aren't here, and if you think that they really should be in the big inventory, please suggest it to us, and we may trip on those ourselves. And then this is where we begin what our DHCS colleagues, Jalal had referred to earlier. Each of the programs in the statewide transition plan for the 1915 C home community-based programs, they're all doing this same kind of an assessment where they're looking at some fundamental questions. There's 8 questions. And for each of these 8 questions, we went through and we pulled over the language that specifically addresses these 8 questions and then made some comments on it. We identified whether the requirement for HCB settings has been met or is not met or is partially met, identified a remedial strategy or a timeline if those are necessary. So to cut to the chase, for all 8 questions, we have said that we believe we meet those requirements. and that no remedial strategy is necessary. So, so what we've done is we've pulled in, so question number 1 addresses, for HCB settings, says that the setting is integrated in, fully supports full access to the greater community, including opportunities to seek employment and work in competitive integrated settings, engage in community life, control personal resources, receive services in the community to the same degree of access as individuals not receiving Medicaid HCB services. So we pulled in a lot of requirements that we think, again, sort of support this, and then highlighted that so it would be, we think, easy to see. So, so again, a number of the challenges here, and I think that we'll have a lot of opportunity to have conversation about this going forward, but that what we're saying, and this is what the stakeholders have said throughout this process, that with each of these 8, there's sort of a foundational sort of thinking, which is that CVAS is a community-based setting, that the centers operate in these local communities, the individuals make an informed choice to participate, they choose from various options, their managed care plans help them in knowing what their options are, the CVAS participants also can choose from in-home communities, in-home support options, which are consumer-directed. We say that they have both formal and informal help through that, through the IHSS program, through their own caregivers, the support of their managed care plans, the assistance of the CVAS centers, that the participants exercise choice and continue to live and participate in community life to a degree that is equal to, if not greater than, individuals with similar needs who do not receive HCB services. And we did get some clarification recently on this from CMS. There was a call last week where we talked about what CMS is looking for in this, this comparison to others in the community who don't receive HCB services, and that would be others in those particular communities. So the access that those non-HCB service recipients in those same communities, what they would have, are they equal to those? And so that really, I think, helped us solidify some of our thinking on this, that in many cases, yes, our CVAS beneficiaries actually have access to greater levels of choice and freedom because of that. So, but again, a lot of this pre-think on this came from all of you, so this is what we felt like we needed to call out here. Also wanted to highlight, if you just scroll down a little bit, because this does focus on work in this section, and even though this may not be relevant to some of our folks, we do want to emphasize here that that individuals are assessed for their needs, they get a care plan developed, that they're there for 4 hours at a minimum for the day, but not all day, not every day of the week, and that social workers provide counseling and referral to other available community resources, and that if there were a need for or a desire for referral for vocational assessment or work opportunities, that certainly that is an option that can be presented to individuals based on their needs and desires. With regard to control of resources, you see what we've put in there, that basically this is, they have no authority here, so CVAS centers don't. So we've tried to address each of the items in this question number 1. Now, we don't need to go through every single one of these. I'm sure we'll have lots of opportunity to talk about it, but wanted to just sort of lay out, this is the landscape of this document, that we've taken each of these questions and tried to address the question that CMS is asking through the lens of what our CVAS program rules are, and we've concluded met. So more conversation on that going forward. So did we want to go through that any further? I think that's probably
no. I think you did a great job.
Question number 1 and question number 8 is pretty much the same spread.
That's great. Okay, so that's the draft plan. Now you know where it's located. And let's just talk for a few minutes. I just want to remind everyone, we're going to go back to the slides. I just want to remind everybody about what we're hoping to learn from you all, and then how we're going to get it. So remember, as you review the draft plan, please think about these issues. And it would be great if you want to print this one slide out and keep it next to you as you review the plan, because these are the issues that we want feedback on. And again, your feedback is due by June 22nd. The public comment period begins today. So let's talk a little bit about the public comment process and how to submit your public comments. So again, the public comment period starts today. You're right at the beginning and ends on June 22nd. So we hope you won't wait till the end of the period to send in your comments, in part because just 10 days later, after June 22nd, is our next meeting, July 8th, and the CDA staff need time to review all of your comments and evaluate how they could be incorporated into the next draft. So again, the sooner you can get to this, please don't procrastinate, the sooner you can get to this, the easier it will be to give really thoughtful comment to your feedback so that we can evaluate where it should go. CMS requires a 30-day public notice and comment period. So as you heard, the public notice will occur on Friday in the California Register. And you're getting notice today. It's already posted on the website. There will be a number of different ways to notice this effort, both electronic and non-electronic. The California Register actually sends materials out to the libraries in hard copy so that they're accessible for people that don't have electronic means. And of course, you all have the electronic means. The staff at DHCS and CDA will have to provide a summary of all the public comments as part of the submission and show CMS how they've evaluated these comments and which ones were incorporated into the plan and which ones weren't. So everyone takes your public comment very seriously, and of course the plan will be modified, and we know you will have lots of comments that will be incorporated into the plan. So now I'm going to ask Lilith Tovmasian from CDA just to help us understand the two approaches that CDA and DHCS have set up for you to submit your public comment. Lilith?
All right, thanks, Bobby. Hello, everyone. So first, we're going to go through our electronic public comment submission. So if you can click on the link, we'll actually walk through it with everyone. That first link up there. All right, so on this first page, we have brief instructions for everyone. We have a reference to the draft plan. We have a link here under italic number 1. And then the way we've done the public comment survey is we've separated into different sections. So as Denise was reviewing the plan, she was going through each section. I believe there were 6 of them. So as we walk through the survey, you'll see all those sections. And then at the end of the survey, we're asking you to enter just general comments about the draft plan that you might have or anything you want to add about the stakeholder process in general. And again, we have the public comment period here from May 19th until June 22nd. And we do have to get everything in by close of business June 22nd. If you have any questions or concerns, give us a call at the number provided here. So let's actually go through the survey. So this is what it looks like. We've got identifying information. This is all optional, but we're asking that you input this in case we have any questions. We do have a character limit. So under note there, it says the comments and proposed revisions boxes have a 600 character limit. And if you need additional space, if you can contact us for further instructions. So by 600 character limit, we mean actually each box. So if you keep scrolling down, so we have, for example, right there. So section number 1, we have background and introduction. So we've got 2 boxes here. If you have comments on draft CBAS plan, we ask you to enter those there. You have 600 character limit there. And then under proposed revisions, this is an optional comment section. You can include specific language that you're proposing on the draft plan. And this, again, has 600 character limit. And so it continues through each section of the plan. And then if we can keep scrolling all the way to the end. And then here we have that general comments about the draft CBAS plan and or the stakeholder process that you can add. And once you're done, if you can click on the done button at the end, right there, and we'll get your survey.
So this is a great way if you don't want to write a long letter with your feedback in it, but you do have specific comments on the draft. this SurveyMonkey tool, I'm sure all of you have used this before, and if you haven't, it's a very user-friendly technique to providing feedback. So I think this is great that the departments have made this approach available, not to discourage letters with lots of detail, but just to encourage feedback from a wide variety of stakeholders who may have specific comments and don't want to send in a letter. This is the best approach. Denise.
Yeah, and I would just add that what it does for us, and we've relied on your help all along, and this is another one of those areas that you can help us because it'll pre-sort everything for us. So instead of, if you send us a letter, we're just going to have to take the time and break it down and sort it, but if you give it to us already pre-sorted, that's going to make our jobs a little easier. So if it's an option for you, we certainly encourage you to do it.
Okay, Lilith, do you want to go on and
Sure.
talk about the other ways to provide comments?
Sure. We also have the link available on our website, and there it is right there. So if you click on the draft CBAS transition plan and public comment process, we have under public comment submission, it says electronic submission, submit your comments here. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to the survey again. So we have it available in the slides both ways. Okay, and then we also have different means of submitting your comments. This is if you need to submit non-electronic comments. So you may call us and make your comments verbally over the phone, or you may submit your comments in writing. We have our address listed here. We have our phone number listed as well. You may also request hard copies of any of the documents that we've discussed today, or to obtain further assistance with submitting non-electronic comments. So please feel free to call us or send us something to our mailing address.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Lilith. And thank you to DHCS and CDA for thinking through this process. It's several different ways to provide comments, through the SurveyMonkey electronically, verbally over the phone, and of course in writing electronically or by mail. So lots of different approaches to provide comments. Again, your comments are essential to get this plan to reflect additional input from the stakeholders. Okay, any comments or questions? Yes, Lydia.
I was wondering if we could look at the SurveyMonkey again, and then while you're bringing that up, Lilith, can a person start the SurveyMonkey, save it, and come back to it later?
Yeah, we check that setting to make sure that
Okay.
somebody can come back in.
Okay, so that's
Fill it out.
important to know.
Yep.
And what I was wanting to look at again, we were looking at the first 6 sections, meaning the first 6 sections are, well, the 6 sections are in the actual narrative plan. And I was just seeing how much content was in each section. So it's just slow.
I need to think about it.
Yeah.
It's thinking just like we are.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Next. Yeah, I just want to see where it starts. So all the name. Then give a comment on proposed backgrounds and comment revisions.
So there should be, including the background, that would be 7 questions.
I believe.
There's
The
6
background.
sections, and the background makes 7.
Okay, so the background is in and of itself about what, 4 pages, 5 pages?
Yeah, about 5 pages.
7.
Are you concerned that there's too much to comment on there?
Yeah, because I already started making some notes.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if I'm going to use that or if I should submit it written or do both, you know what I mean? So I wonder if you could add a little bit more text opportunity for the sections that are a little bit longer, perhaps.
So the background section is really just brief. It's just what they told us to do. So that's like
Oh, it
half a
is?
page. then introduction is kind of lengthy. But I guess here's one of the things we talked about, and I guess Lilith and I are looking at each other.
That's why
I think
I'm
that
kind
we
of
could,
looking
we
too
could
at all
split
these.
that out if you felt like that would be helpful. I'm not sure it would be helpful because I don't think anybody's going to have much to say about background, because it's pretty much CMS told us to do this and we did it. But the introduction is kind of meaty, you know, and it does sort of touch on some of the major issues. We talked about building this with the general comments up front, which is a really big box for comments. And if we were to do that, I think what would happen is it would encourage people to drop all their comments in the general, and then we would have
no, you don't want that. Yeah.
But you can get. Is the 600 character limit on the general box?
No, I think it's more. For the
It's
general
more in
box.
the general box.
Okay. Yeah.
So you could dump as much as you could into the first box, and then come down to the general box and make comments.
Although I suspect,
Yeah,
Lydia,
some of them are
people like
short.
you will be writing a long letter, and that is an option.
Yeah, I'd like to
also.
avoid that, though. That's why I was just
Yeah.
kind of orienting myself as to how much is just repeating what CMS is saying versus, you know, the comments. 'Cause
Right. So I'd say, Lydia, if you want to dip your toes in and take an attempt at it, and you run into something, just give us a call. And, you know, of course, I guess the main message we want to give everybody is that we want your comments. However you can get them to us, it would make it easier if you give it to us in service surveys.
Well, I just want to say, while I still have the floor, too, I think this is really well organized. It's clear. I think it's really compliment to all you and all your team that put it together, because I found it very easy to follow and logical, and I like the highlighting when you went through all of the laws and regs. It really jumps out. CMS should be able to follow this very easily. I'm thinking about, you know, a person that doesn't know about this program at all being a reader, and I mean, I think I'd be pretty clear on understanding what this program's about. So unless they want to really drill into more details, looks to me like you've given them a pretty complete package. So
Good. That's great feedback.
compliments, yeah.
Good. I mean, I suspect we'll have some areas where there'll be some questions raised, but, you know, I think that we feel pretty solid.
Okay, any other comments on the public comment process for the draft plan? Okay, well, we have one more topic that we want to cover before we go into public comment for this meeting, just because we want to make sure that you have plenty of opportunity to give your feedback. So I just want to go back and reiterate the timing of the two CBAS work groups, one on the IPC revision, and this was mentioned as part of Section 4, the person-centered care planning in the draft plan. The IPC revision and this work group, and you see the members of the work group so far, and the purpose of the work group here on the screen, will begin in July and will probably run through July of 2015 and will run through December of 2016, if that amount of time is needed. And you can see from the individuals that have volunteered to be on the work group, there's a wide variety of providers as well as health plans, and of course the association. And if after you look at these two work groups you'd like to volunteer, please let CDA know that you're interested in participating. So this is the IPC revision work group. And then we have the quality work group. And you can see here again a nice variety of providers as well as health plans and, of course, the association. So these are the two work groups. Dates for the kickoff meeting. I think the CDA staff are envisioning that the first meeting will be a joint meeting of the two groups to get everybody focused on what the tasks are, what the approach is going to be, how often we're going to meet, etc. And then the two groups will meet separately. And perhaps they'll come together at certain points, but they'll go down their own paths because their purposes are really quite different. Ed?
I just have a quick question. Denise, we have Burge and Lois and Shakaya and Amanda in one
Yeah.
box, was that designated?
No,
Denote anything?
that's just sloppy staff work.
Oh, yeah. Well, if that's the extent of sloppy stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I was like, I'm not sure why we did that, but we did. So yeah,
Okay.
no, they're all from different entities there. So.
yeah, I just, because it was the same on the other one too.
Yeah. We just missed the boat on that one.
So in case you didn't recognize that voice, that was Ed Long from CDA calling the staff out for not putting Okay, let's see. Is there any other questions or comments on the startup of the work groups, the membership of the work groups? And again, if you'd like to volunteer to be on the work group and you don't feel your views are represented, please let the CDA staff know that.
Nothing on the left.
Okay. Wow. Okay, well now we're going to go on to the now this is different than the public comment process we talked about a minute ago. This is the public comment for this meeting. So if anyone would like to make any comment about today's meeting, we're heading into the end of the meeting. If anyone would like to make any comment about today's meeting, we would appreciate your feedback. And if you'd like to, you can type in your question or raise your hand, your electronic hand, and we'll open the phone line for you. And again, if you could state your name and organization, and we would love to hear any feedback or comments that you have. So let's give everyone just a minute to see if they have any comments, and to type them in if you'd like. We'll take public comment for this meeting. This is your moment of silence for today. Your time to meditate. Your forced meditation. Okay, well, it seems like we don't have any public comment. So in preparation for wrapping up the meeting, we do have one public comment.
We have a couple.
Okay, oh, we do. Good.
Yeah.
So I think this is just a clarification on some of our data. We'll follow up on that. This is from Deb Toes. So we'll get back to you, Deb. And then there's a comment from Diane Puckett. I also feel that the draft plan looks complete and reflects the person-centered nature of the ADHD model. Can you comment on CDA's vision for creating an additive process for programs, given that the model already reflects much of what CMS wants to verify is present in community-based programs?
Good point, Diane. Denise?
Yeah, I'll start. So, yeah, Diana, I hear you. I mean, I think that part of what came out in this discussion early on is that we think we got a pretty good model, and that you know, the program as it was conceived back in the late 70s, it was pretty good with regards to person-centered care. So, so I would say that what I hope is that when we kick off in July and start scoping the work group for the IPC revision, that we will be talking about what we think might better support person-centered care, probably really generally, and then zeroing in on the IPC itself. So where we know there's some really basic things that need to be done to the IPC, like we just recently found out that the field that takes the ICD-9 codes isn't big enough for the ICD-10s. And so we know that there's going to be mechanical fixes that need to happen. So there's going to be a lot of conversation in that group about, you know, that crosses the spectrum. But I would hope that we will hear from all of you at that time about what we think might reinforce the person-centered care. I've been an advocate, I think, since the beginning when I saw the CMS directives and I started reading the rules, that I think we need to have certain things that are standardized in our participation agreements. Because right now, as you know, we don't have any standard participation agreement, and I think that there are some things that it would be good to hold all providers to in the way of standard process for informing participants of their rights, the services and the way they're discussed. There's lots of things that I think that we would benefit from in having a standardized protocol for participation agreement and a standardized form. And I think you and I might have a disagreement on that we had a discussion about before. But again, I hope that these are all discussion points for our work group and for the stakeholders in general. I think there are a few areas where we can really tighten up our expectations and our standards. And then I, of course, think that education and what just transpired at the Berkeley conference was fantastic with regards to conversation around person-centered care. The larger discussion than planning, and what you guys are doing with operationalizing things and the shared best practices. I hope we can start talking about best practices. So that's some of my thoughts.
Thanks, Diane, and thanks, Deb, for both of your comments. Any other comments for public comment? Okay. Well, now we'll go on to our next steps. And again, just a reminder, any feedback at all that you have, we welcome your feedback, many different ways to provide it. And again, if you want to provide feedback on the draft plan, we would encourage you to use the SurveyMonkey tool, if at all possible. It will make organizing the comments and the feedback easier. And if it's easier for you to call and give your feedback over the telephone or to write a letter, either sent by U.S. mail or sent electronically, we will accept those avenues as well, because some of your comments may not fit adequately into the SurveyMonkey format. Our next meeting and the last meeting of this series, the 5th meeting in this series, again will be July 8th. Remember again that the public comment period for the draft plan ends June 22nd. Again, please don't wait till the last minute. If you're like me, you will. I encourage you to calendar it earlier in the month so that you can get your feedback in, and so the staff at DHCS and CDA have plenty of time to think about your comments and be able to incorporate those that are appropriate into the draft plan. We'll meet again on July 8th, and again, that will be the time that the state staff will share the comments, a summary of the comments, and we'll share how those comments have either been incorporated into the plan or not, and what the rationale is. So we're ending early today because our goal today was really, again, to orient you to the draft plan. I want to thank the staff at the California Department of Aging who made this meeting happen electronically. They're all fantastic and here in the room. And the leadership and staff at CDA and DHCS for all the work that they've done on the CBAS transition plan. So unless there's any other comments, we will end the meeting. It's 3:30, so you've all gained an hour and a half in your day. I hope you'll use it wisely, and we'll look forward to your feedback over the next few weeks and to being back together again on July 8th. Thanks, everybody, for participating.
Thank you.